Hello, welcome to another edition of On the Spot. I'm Christopher Taylor of My Astro Chris, and you're back on the spot with me. Today what we have is a 55-year-old female. We're going to look at her chart. Here's a look at her natal chart right here. And what we want to focus in on is, if you look on the right side of that chart, what's circled over there, the planet Mars. Mars is sitting right on the 7th house cusp in this case. Okay? And it's in the sign of Cancer. And what I want to do is talk about what Mars is, what it relates to in a person's chart. And then we're going to talk about how she's in a 3-year period, about 1 year into a 3-year period. It started spring of 2010. Here we are April 18th, 2011. And this will last until about the spring of 2013. And we'll talk about how this component of her, this Mars component of her, is undergoing a transformation, undergoing an actualization and reformation in her life. Okay? And so to start out, what I'll do is talk about Mars. What is Mars? What's the significance of this kind of a planet? Well, Mars is the planet that traditionally rules things like war and courage and bravery and the warrior in us in a lot of ways. It's our masculine aspect. It's how we take action, how we take our energy and put it out in the world. And so where Mars is in a person's chart reveals a lot of information about how that energy is structured in us on an unconscious level. Okay? It's where we go unconsciously with this energy. And so with Mars in Cancer, Cancer's a water sign, not the easiest expression for Mars to be in. Mars in any kind of water sign leads to indirect action. Okay? If you think of a fish or a crab, a fish is not something that's going to be a vicious direct action that it takes. And a crab, the symbol for Cancer, walking sideways. This sort of indirect approach. And so the natural unconscious approach to life, the approach to taking action on that unconscious level, is this Cancer-like way of sidestepping, okay, of indirect action. And so the negative side of that is passive aggressiveness, okay? Because there's a sense of not being able to take direct action the way that the Mars energy more naturally expresses itself. It's a more direct kind of energy in an indirect kind of a sign, an indirect kind of an energy flow, okay? Also in her chart, Mars is in the 7th house, right on the cusp of the 7th house. This is that zone of the chart that deals with how we meet others, how we meet others in the world. And so in this case, with Mars right there, here's someone that will tend to unconsciously project the masculine onto others, project action onto others. So there's always a sense of, I can't do this because this is what someone else wants me to do. There's a sense of always seeing what I'm supposed to do relative to what others want from me. Okay? And that causes inner angst and on an unconscious level, a sense that other people are, instigating us or antagonizing us. But it's really our own, in this situation, it's our own projection of our masculine aspect, our own projection of our ability to take direct action that we're putting on others. So we're seeing their directness. We're seeing their sense of, their warrior that is demanding things from us. In some sense. So her experience would be something like this on an unconscious level. What's going on recently with this is a total, again, transformation and actualization of this part of her. Step one is the realization of how this person has allowed relationships to occur in her life with regards to this action principle, in that she puts the action principle on others and then resents that others are the action principle and that she's not able to take her own action. And that's the awareness she's come into the last year or so. So if you go back to about April of 2010, a year ago, this is when Pluto crossed over her 1st house cusp. This is the welcome to the new me kind of phase of life. Very, very intense experiences. Like 2009, 2010 would have been very eye-opening and intense in ways of seeing herself in a new light and saying, whoa, we're not going to take it anymore. I'm not going to take it anymore. This is the new me. And so in addition to that, back in April of 2010, what started was an opposition to this Mars in her chart. And so Pluto opposition Mars, this is a 2-year period. It's a 2-year window this has opened up. We're about halfway through that 2-year window. So that'll last till about the spring of 2012. And in that 2-year window, there's this huge realization of this part of ourself that we just talked about, of these habit patterns, these unconscious habit patterns that now are open. There's a window open for that to change, okay? And so it's kind of in the background, tugging at her for the last year and for the next year, saying, hey, does this work for you anymore? Hey, how does this work for you? And so she's getting examples in life of how projecting her action principle onto others, how it's not helping her take action in her own life. That's the real crux of this lesson, okay? But along the way, there are other things that are hitting as well. And so, if you look at the next chart here, up top, the planet Saturn. The planet Saturn is in her 9th house right now. This is the house of our belief system, our philosophy of life. She's undergoing a couple of year period where she's getting rid of old beliefs that don't work anymore and concretizing or bringing into manifestation new belief systems that do work for her. And along with that, back in September of 2010, around the early part of September, this planet Saturn actually formed a square right down to her Mars in the 7th house. This would have been a pretty hard time, a pretty frustrating kind of a time, a feeling of being held back, a realization of how she's held herself back is really what this comes down to. And so it's that general theme, giving a very specific time period of when that would have happened. It would have been in September of 2010. She would have been very aware of how she's held herself back, and she would possibly even see this through the people in her life that she sees as holding her back. Okay. Then what happened here in February of 2011, mid to late February, just after Valentine's Day or so, to about February 20th, 22nd, something like that. Right around that time frame, Jupiter on the other side of the chart, on the bottom of the chart, the 3rd house, this is a transit that deals with meeting new people, getting new ideas, that kind of a thing. This came by in mid to late February and squared her Mars from below, from a different part of the chart. This is almost like the opposite experience of September. September was, hey, here's how you hold yourself back. Hey, here's who's holding you back in your life. Here's who you've brought into your life to hold you back, is a better way to say that. And then February comes and says, hey, here's how you can break out. Hey, here's opportunities to be you. Okay? That was the experience of mid to late February. And the grand finale of all this, won't even start until next spring, okay, the spring of 2012. And that'll be right around the time when Pluto is letting up. So essentially what happens is about a year from now, okay, what goes on is the general lesson of I need to change, or I need to take action that's more aligned with my authentic self than I have been. That lesson will be ingrained and absorbed at some level. Then the planet, right on the heels of this, the planet Uranus, on the bottom of the chart, comes on by and squares her Mars for about a year. Okay, starting about spring of 2012, all the way through about the spring of 2013. This will be, whatever February showed her, whatever mid to late February showed her in terms of possibilities and opportunities, this time period, from next spring of 2012, to about the spring of 2013, is these new possibilities coming in that allow for a more authentic expression of the action principle, a more authentic expression of taking action according to the self, not according to what others want her to take. And she would not be ready for this next year had it not been for this period she's been going through over the last year or two. Okay? And if it weren't for seeing the experience back in September of 2010, where she understood what held her back, and then also seeing the experience in February of 2011 that says, well, here's the possibilities. Here's how I can take action. Here's how I can be me. Okay? So that's the timeline. It's about a 3-year period. It started a year ago. We got about 2 years left. And the last several months, September to February, have given some good examples. But now it's about understanding the general theme of what she's going through and what the point is. And I think next year, again, spring of 2012 to spring of 2013, There's going to be a lot of opportunities to be a very unique version of the self that she hasn't been in a while, or that she has never been, okay? So, with that, that about wraps it up. And again, I'm Christopher Taylor of My Astro Chris. If you're interested in your own on-the-spot, you can contact me through my website, myastrochris.com. Also, I do comprehensive readings for individuals, relationships, organizations, and businesses. So, if you're interested in that, also check out myastrochris.com, and I would absolutely love to set something up with you. So, thank you again, and take care.